we're the Canal Squad.
My name is Ashley.
My name is Alejandro. He's also Alejandro. He's a talk much though.
We're here to share some information with you about the effects of canals on the marine environment.
The Canal Basin in South Florida is one of the world's most complex and large water management systems. It consists of over 1,300 water control structures, 64 pump stations, and 2,600 miles of canals. All of this works together to provide flood control, water supply, navigation, and environmental management. A canal is necessary in order to control water levels and maintain groundwater control in relatively dry conditions. This is significant because of water supply needs, such as preventing saltwater intrusion. Not only do canals affect the city, but they also affect the marine ecosystem. Canals funnel water from the watershed quickly, reducing the nearshore salinity at the canal mouth. But once the fresh water disperses, salinity effects are not seen far from the canal's output. Large, quick changes in salinity near the canal mouth can put more stress on those organisms that live nearby. All kinds of invertebrates and vertebrates from microscopic to larger than humans can be found in brackish water. They must be able to adapt to the changes in salinity, temperature, and inputs from freshwater sources, both natural and man-made. Through the process of evolution, natural selection has allowed organisms to adapt to changing salinities in an estuary. Although canals can be beneficial to the environment, they can also harm it. Canals can add excess nutrients that exacerbate plankton blooms such as red tide organisms, or deliver man-made toxins, petroleum products, and chemicals disposed onto our watersheds. In areas that canals empty into the ocean, plastic toys, metal objects, beverage cans, and bottles, and even human waste has been found by trawling nets. There are some laws with limited enforcement, but regulatory agencies, nonprofits, and other groups are doing all they can to educate, regulate, and enforce the current rules. Fish and invertebrate nursery areas can be greatly affected and altered by canal inputs by reducing necessary habitat for food and protection while they attempt to avoid predators. Man-made pollutants can be fatal or reduce organisms' ability to fight disease and other stressor, making them very vulnerable to their environment.
In this situation, if we didn't have people living around and changing this environment, rain will seep naturally into the ground, going through the sand and the limestone, getting cleaned up. That's a natural process. That's what we ideally have, right? But then we started to change everything. We started to build roads and also build canals that actually rush the water out into the ocean, not allowing the water to actually seep into the ground and actually replenish our aquifers. That's the problem that we call channelization, right? But that's not all. Having this situation and having people around, we have other problems like pollution because we have fertilizer runoff. Sometimes our septic tanks leak. Sometimes we have storage tanks that leak as well. So all of this pollution can actually reach our aquifers and create an even bigger problem. Also, when we build structures like this, they're also going to contribute to the problem because it's called surface hardening. It's not going to allow the water to actually seep into the ground because we're making it harder, and then water can actually go through it. We also have wells, and every time we pump and pump and pump more water, we're not only allowing pollution to enter the aquifer, but also we're making room for salt water to enter into the aquifers, and this is what we call saltwater intrusion. Right, so everything is connected. The way the water should be flowing in these areas, the way we're rushing the water out, the way we're allowing pollution to actually enter into the aquifers is creating a big problem. Everything is connected, right? So part of this giant problem is having canals, because canals gather pollution and don't allow the water or the system to actually clean up that pollution. It's rushing the pollution out in the ocean. definitely is. Especially on the East Coast, you can see it clearly. All of this pollution, because it's not only the trash, but let's think about our cars leaking. We put all kinds of chemicals in our cars, like, well, here not as much, but we use antifreeze oils, a liquid for this, a liquid for that, and all of this stuff is gonna leak in the soil, and then it's gonna get washed up by rain, and it's gonna end up in the ocean, right? Also tires. When tires wear out, they start like, do you see how the roads go black? Those particles end up in the ocean as well. So there are many, many, many kinds of pollution that end up in the canals. Many kinds. And I mean, you name it. There are so many chemicals. It would be like a huge study just to name all of those. We get these dead zones, and because there is so much nutrients in the water, we get this algae bloom, or algae blooms, and what they do is eat up all the oxygen in the water. So everybody else that is in that water is not gonna be able to breathe, and that causes a big problem. Like you saw the cormorants, how the cormorants get affected by it, sea turtles, fish. A lot of fish die from this. So it is a big problem. And another problem that we have in our oceans these days is the garbage patch, because there is so much garbage that is getting into the ocean. The currents are starting to move that garbage around. So it had created like a huge dump in the ocean, and it's so big that it's very difficult to clean up. I was reading an article last month about it, and they were explaining how big the problem is. Like, it's gonna take many years of people just working on it, gathering all of this trash, trying to get it out. And then the other problem that this is causing is that small fish and even bigger fish, different animals, are eating these very tiny pieces of plastic and other debris, and that's going into their systems. So that's carrying on in the food chain and in the food web. So it is a problem.